The seas churned with winter's fury as the longship cut through the grey waters. Odelle Crowley stood at the prow, her copper hair whipping against her face like flames. The salt air filled her lungs, a momentary respite from the stench of death that had permeated her village for weeks. She gripped her medicine pouch tightly, the herbs and bones within clicking together with each roll of the waves. "Land ahead," called Torsten, the ship's navigator. Odelle's heart quickened. The English shore appeared through the mist, a promise of salvation, or so she prayed to the gods. 6 moons had passed since the sickness first arrived in Ravholm. It came with a merchant ship from the east, an invisible enemy more devastating than any sword-wielding adversary. First came the fever, then the painful swellings, and finally death. So many deaths. As the village healer, Odelle had exhausted every remedy passed down through generations. She had prayed to Ea, goddess of healing, and made sacrifices to Odin himself. Nothing stopped the plague's relentless advance. Her own father, Jarl Odelle Crowley, lay dying when she made her desperate decision. "You're certain the Christian monks possess knowledge of this sickness?" asked Leif, her father's most trusted warrior, as he approached. His face was grim beneath his braided beard. "My mother spoke of their healing arts before she died," Odelle replied. "She learned much from a captured monk before my father ordered his release." Leif frowned. "This is no raid, Odelle. Your father would never approve of seeking help from those who worship the White Christ." "My father will not live to see the next full moon unless I find a cure," she said, her voice hard as steel. "None of us will." The longship slid onto the pebbly shore with a grinding halt. Odelle was the first to leap into the shallows, her leather boots splashing in the cold water. She carried no axe or shield like the warriors who followed her, only her healer's satchel and the desperate hope that the Christian monastery rumored to possess ancient healing texts would provide what she needed. "Remember," she addressed the 12 warriors who accompanied her, "we come not to raid but to trade. Any man who draws his weapon without my command answers to my father upon our return." The men nodded solemnly. They had all lost family to the sickness. Even the most battle-hungry among them understood the gravity of their mission. The monastery of St. Cuthbert rose from the coastal cliffs, stone walls stark against the winter sky. As they approached, bells began to toll, a warning. Odelle raised her arms to show she carried no weapons, though she knew her very presence as a Norse woman would be threat enough. Monks scattered like startled birds as the Vikings approached. One remained at the gate, an older man with a calm demeanor despite the fear evident in his eyes. "We seek knowledge, not plunder," Odelle called out in the trade tongue. "A sickness ravages our home. We bring silver and amber in exchange for healing wisdom." The monk's eyes widened slightly. "I am Brother Edmund, keeper of this humble house of God. Your kind has brought much suffering to our shores. Why should we offer aid?" "Because your Christ teaches mercy," Odelle replied, remembering her mother's words. "And because this sickness knows no boundaries between our peoples. If it spreads to your lands, you too will need remedies." Brother Edmund studied her for a long moment before nodding slightly. "Wait here." He disappeared into the monastery, returning moments later with another figure. This man was younger, tall and broad-shouldered despite his monk's robes. His dark beard was closely trimmed, and his eyes, bright blue against his weather-darkened skin, regarded Odelle with intensity. "This is Brother Brayden Fitzroy," Edmund introduced him. "He tends our herb garden and healing house. If anyone can assist you, it is he." Brayden stepped forward, his gaze moving from Odelle to the warriors behind her. "You truly come in peace." "We do," she affirmed. "Then come. But your warriors must remain outside our walls." Leif began to protest, but Odelle silenced him with a raised hand. "I will go alone." She turned to Brayden. "But know this, Christian, if harm comes to me, my people will burn your monastery to the ground." A smile flickered across Brayden's face. "Then we understand each other." Inside the monastery walls, Odelle felt strangely out of place. The stone buildings and carefully tended gardens were so different from the wooden longhouses of Ravholm. Monks stopped their work to stare as she passed, some making signs against evil. Brayden led her to a small stone building set apart from the others. Inside, the air was warm and fragrant with dried herbs hanging from the rafters. Shelves lined with clay jars, wooden boxes, and leather-bound manuscripts covered the walls. "Tell me of this sickness," Brayden said, gesturing for her to sit on a wooden stool. Odelle described the symptoms in detail: the fever, the swellings in the neck and groin, the blackened skin, the swift progression to death. With each description, Brayden's expression grew more grave. "We call it the Black Death," he said finally. "It has ravaged lands far to the south. I feared it would reach these shores eventually. Can it be cured?" Odelle asked, trying to keep the desperation from her voice. Brayden moved to a shelf and pulled down a leather-bound manuscript. "Not cured, perhaps. But there are ways to ease suffering and improve chances of survival." He opened the book, revealing pages of elegant script and detailed drawings of plants. This text came from Constantinople years ago. It speaks of isolating the sick, of certain herbs that strengthen the body's battle against the illness. "Show me," Odelle demanded, moving closer. For hours they pored over the manuscripts. Brayden explained treatments using vinegar, rosemary, and something called foxglove that Odelle recognized by its Norse name. She shared her own knowledge of healing herbs from the northern forests. "You know much for a..." Brayden hesitated. "For a Viking?" Odelle finished, a challenging edge to her voice. "For someone without formal learning," he corrected. "Your knowledge of plant lore is impressive." As the day faded into evening, Brother Edmund appeared at the doorway. "The hour grows late. Your warriors grow restless, and our brothers are uneasy with their presence. I need more time," Odelle said. "There is too much to learn in one day." Brayden looked to Edmund. "The sickness she describes, it will reach our shores too, brother. Perhaps already has. What we learn from each other could save many lives, Christian and pagan alike." Edmund frowned but nodded slowly. "You may return tomorrow." "But only you," he said to Odelle. "Your warriors must make camp beyond the village." That night, as Odelle sat by the campfire on the beach, Leif approached her. "Did you find what you sought?" "Perhaps. The monk knows of the sickness. He has texts from distant lands that speak of treatments. Can we trust him?" Leif asked, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Odelle stared into the flames. "I believe we can. He has no reason to help us, yet he does. All Christians have reason to convert or kill us," Leif spat. "Be wary, Odelle. Your father entrusted me with your safety." She nodded, though her mind was already back in the monastery's healing house, with the blue-eyed monk who spoke of medicine with such passion. Over the next 3 days, Odelle returned to the monastery. Each day, she and Brayden exchanged knowledge, preparing tinctures and salves that might help fight the plague. She learned that he had not been born to the monastery but had joined after losing his family in a Viking raid years before. "Why help me then?" she asked on the 3rd day as they crushed juniper berries for a cleansing wash. "If my people took your family from you?" Brayden's hand stilled. "At first, I told myself it was what Christ would do, to help even those who harmed me." His blue eyes met hers. "But now, I see you are not the ones who raided my village. You are Odelle, a healer who would risk everything to save her people. How could I not help you?" Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition that transcended the enmity of their peoples. Odelle looked away first, uncomfortable with the warmth spreading through her chest. On the 4th day, as they worked together preparing remedies to take back to Ravholm, Brayden showed her a hidden compartment beneath a floorstone. From it, he withdrew a small, ornate box. "What I'm about to show you," he said in a low voice, "would have me branded a heretic if the abbot discovered it." Inside the box lay a manuscript unlike the others. The symbols were strange, the drawings depicting human forms with detailed markings of veins and organs. This came from far to the east, beyond even Constantinople. It speaks of healing in ways the church forbids, what some would call magic. "Magic?" Odelle whispered. In her village, seer, women's magic, was both respected and feared. Her own mother had practiced it secretly. Not magic as your people might understand it, Brayden explained. But knowledge forbidden because it challenges the church's teaching about the body and soul. He showed her pages describing how to draw illness from the body using needles placed at specific points, how certain combinations of plants could induce visions that help diagnose sickness, how blood might be purified through ritual cleansing. "Why show me this?" Odelle asked. "Because conventional remedies may not be enough for a sickness this virulent," he replied. "And because I sense you might understand this better than I." That night, Odelle couldn't sleep. The forbidden manuscript had awakened something in her, memories of watching her mother perform healing rituals that blended herb lore with the old magic. Treatments the Christian priests would condemn as witchcraft but that had saved many lives in Ravhome before her mother's death. By morning, she had made her decision. She approached Brayden as he tended his herb garden. "Teach me everything in that manuscript," she said without preamble. "And I wish for you to return with me to Ravhome." Brayden straightened, soil falling from his fingers. "Return with you? To a Viking settlement? My people are dying. You have knowledge that could save them. I have silver enough to make you wealthy." "I don't seek wealth," he said, his voice tight. "Then what do you seek, Brayden Fitzroy?" Odelle challenged. "To hide your knowledge away while people die? Would your Christ approve of that?" His jaw clenched. "You ask me to risk everything. To practice forbidden arts among those who have been enemies to my people. I ask you to save lives," she countered. "Is that not why you became a healer?" For a long moment, he was silent. "Then, if I go with you, I cannot return here. The abbot would never understand." "Then make a new beginning in Ravhome," Odelle said, surprised by how much she wanted him to agree. "My father is Jarl. If you help save him and our people, he will reward you with land, with honor." "And if I fail? If your father dies despite my efforts?" Odelle hadn't considered this possibility. "Then I will ensure your safe passage to wherever you wish to go." That evening, as the sun sank toward the horizon, Brayden appeared at the Vikings' camp carrying a leather satchel. Brother Edmund stood at his side, his expression troubled. "You're certain of this path, Brother Brayden?" the older monk asked. "I am," Brayden replied. "God's work is not always done within monastery walls." Edmund embraced him briefly. "May your Christ God protect you," Odelle said to Edmund, offering respect to the monk who had not turned them away. "And may your God show you the path to his light," Edmund replied, surprising her with his acknowledgement of her beliefs. As they prepared to depart with the tide, Leaf pulled Odelle aside. "The Christian comes with us. His knowledge may be our only hope," she explained. Leaf's eyes narrowed. "And when he has served his purpose?" "That will be for my father to decide," Odelle said firmly, though the thought of Brayden being treated as a temporary tool troubled her more than she cared to admit. The journey back to Ravhome was swift, the winds favorable as if the gods approved of their mission. During the voyage, Odelle and Brayden continued their exchange of knowledge. At night, huddled in the shelter of the ship's prow, he taught her the forbidden techniques from the Eastern manuscript. "These points," he explained, tracing lines on her palm that corresponded to different parts of the body, "connect to organs we cannot see. By stimulating them, we can help the body fight the sickness." His touch sent warmth spreading up her arm, and Odelle pulled her hand away more abruptly than she intended. Brayden gave her a questioning look but continued his explanation without comment. By the time they sighted the fjord leading to Ravhome, Brayden had taught her much, and they had prepared as many remedies as possible with the limited materials available on the ship. But nothing could have prepared Odelle for what awaited them. The village was eerily quiet as they approached. No children played along the shore, no smoke rose from many of the longhouses. "How many lived here?" Brayden asked quietly as they disembarked. 400, Odelle replied, her heart sinking as she saw the row of funeral pyres on the distant beach. Tora, the old midwife who had assisted Odelle in healing, hurried down to meet them. Her face was gaunt with exhaustion. "Odelle! Thank the gods. Your father still lives, but barely. The sickness has taken 30 more since you left, including Gunnar and his entire family. Take me to my father, Odelle commanded, gesturing for Brayden to follow. The Jarl's longhouse stood at the center of the village, its dragon-carved posts rising proudly despite the pall of death that hung over Ravholm. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of sickness. Odelle Crowley lay on his bed platform, his once powerful frame wasted by fever. The swellings on his neck were the size of hen's eggs, and his breathing came in labored gasps. Odelle fell to her knees beside him, taking his hot hand in hers. Father, I've returned. I've brought help. Odelle's eyes fluttered open, cloudy with fever. Daughter, he rasped. You should not have gone among the Christians. Yet I found what we need, she insisted, looking up at Brayden who stood uncertainly in the doorway. This is Brayden Fitzroy. A healer with knowledge of the sickness. The Jarl's gaze shifted to Brayden, hardening despite his weakness. A Christian, in my hall. A healer in your hall, Odelle corrected. One who has risked everything to help us. Before Odelle could respond, a coughing spasm overtook him. Brayden moved forward immediately, his healer's instincts overriding any hesitation. How long has he been this way? He asked, placing a hand on the Jarl's forehead. The fever began 8 days ago, Tora answered. The swellings appeared on the 3rd day. Brayden exchanged a glance with Odelle. They both knew the Jarl was in the final stages of the illness. Few survived once it progressed this far. We must work quickly, he said. Bring clean water, as much as you can heat. We'll need vinegar, and the tinctures we prepared on the ship. For the next hours, they worked tirelessly. Brayden showed Odelle how to insert thin needles at specific points on her father's body to redirect the flow of life energy, as the Eastern manuscript described. They applied poultices to draw out the poisonous humors from the swellings and administered tinctures of herbs to strengthen the heart. As night fell, Brayden taught her the most forbidden technique of all, a ritual that combined elements of prayer with what the Church would certainly condemn as pagan practice. This is where our beliefs may find common ground, he told her quietly as they prepared. Your people believe in the power of runes and chants. My Eastern teachers believed in the power of focused intention combined with physical treatment. Together, they placed their hands on specific points of the Jarl's body, Brayden murmuring Latin prayers while Odelle chanted softly to Ea, goddess of healing. The ritual required their complete focus, their energies aligned despite the vast differences in their faiths. By dawn, Odelle's fever had broken. His breathing, while still labored, had steadied. The swellings had begun to shrink. He may live, Brayden said, exhaustion evident in his voice. But we've only begun our work. There are others to treat, and we must prevent the sickness from spreading further. In the days that followed, Odelle and Brayden established a healing house in an isolated longship shed near the shore. They taught Tora and other women the basic treatments and how to protect themselves from contagion using vinegar washes and masks of herb-infused cloth. The villagers watched the Christian healer with suspicion at first, but as more of their sick began to recover, that suspicion gave way to grudging respect. Brayden worked tirelessly, moving from patient to patient without complaint, even when some spat at his feet or made signs against his Christian influence. Odelle Crowley regained his strength slowly but steadily. One evening, as Odelle checked his recovering wounds, he fixed her with a penetrating stare. This Christian, he said, his voice still rough. He uses magic. Odelle measured her words carefully. He uses knowledge, Father. Some from his Christian texts, some from lands far to the east. Knowledge that saved my life when our gods could not, Odelle observed. Perhaps the god sent him, Odelle suggested. Odin himself seeks wisdom from all sources. Odelle grunted. Perhaps. Or perhaps this sickness is sent by the White Christ to force us to his ways. If that were true, Father, why would one of his followers help us fight it? The Jarl had no answer for that. As weeks passed, the plague's grip on Ravholm loosened. New cases became rare, and those who fell ill had better chances of survival with the treatments Odelle and Brayden had developed. Spring brought warming weather and fresh hope to the village. Yet with recovery came a new tension. Brayden's position remained uncertain. He was neither prisoner nor honored guest. The promise of land and status that Odelle had made hung unfulfilled, awaiting the Jarl's decision. One evening, as Odelle and Brayden took rare moments of rest on the shore, watching the sunset paint the fjord waters gold, she broached the subject. "My father is well enough now to hold counsel. He will decide your fate soon." Brayden skipped a stone across the calm water. "And what fate would you have for me, Odelle Crowley?" The question caught her off guard. In the weeks of working side by side, something had grown between them, respect certainly, but also something deeper that neither had acknowledged. "I would have you stay," she said finally, surprising herself with her honesty. "Your knowledge could benefit our people for years to come." "As the Christian healer? Always an outsider?" Odelle turned to face him. "Is that how you see yourself? After all we've accomplished together?" "It's how your people see me," he replied. "How could it be otherwise? I worship the white Christ. I do not raid or fight with axe and sword." "Yet you fought death itself and won," Odelle said. "That earns respect among Vikings, Brayden." He smiled faintly. "Not as much as a good sword arm." She moved closer, emboldened by the privacy of the shore. "You know that's not true. You've seen how the mothers look at you when you save their children. How the warriors nod to you now when you pass. And how do you look at me, Odelle?" Brayden asked, his voice dropping lower. The question hung in the air between them. Odelle felt a warmth spread across her cheeks that had nothing to do with the setting sun. Before she could answer, a horn sounded from the village, the call to gathering. The Jarl was summoning the people to council. The great hall was filled to capacity that night. Torches cast flickering light over the assembled villagers, all eyes on the high seat where Odelle Crowley sat, still thin from his illness but with the commanding presence that had made him Jarl for 20 winters. "People of Ravhome," he began, his voice carrying to the rafters, "we have survived the black death that came to our shores. Many were taken to Valhalla or to Hell's cold realm, but many more live because of the knowledge brought to us by my daughter Odelle and the Christian healer." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Odelle stood near her father's seat, Brayden positioned uncertainly near the door. "Come forward, Christian," Odelle commanded. Brayden approached, his back straight, eyes meeting the Jarl's without fear. "You saved my life when our God seemed to have abandoned us," Odelle stated. "For this, you have my gratitude. Yet you worship the white Christ whose followers would see our ways destroyed." "I worship Christ who taught healing and compassion," Brayden responded. "I did not come to destroy your ways but to preserve life." Odelle studied him. "Would you take up sword against your own kind if raiders threatened Ravhome?" A hush fell over the hall. It was the question that defined belonging. Would this outsider fight for them if needed? Brayden considered his answer carefully. "I have taken vows against bloodshed," he said finally. "But I would defend this village with every other means at my disposal. I would treat your wounded, strengthen your defenses, even stand as a shield before the defenseless. But I will not take life, Viking or Christian." Whispers erupted around the hall. Some were clearly displeased with this answer, others impressed by his honesty. "A healer who will not kill," Odelle mused. "Strange to our ways, yet perhaps valuable in his own manner." He turned to Odelle. "Daughter, you brought this man to us. What would you have me do with him?" Odelle stepped forward, aware that her next words would shape not only Brayden's fate but her own. "Father, the gods send us wisdom in many forms. This man's knowledge has saved countless lives in Ravhome, yours included. I believe he was sent to us for a purpose, and that purpose is not yet fulfilled." "You speak of fate," Odelle noted. "Of the weaving of the Norns." "I do," Odelle affirmed. "I believe Brayden Fitzroy's thread is now woven with ours. I ask that you grant him land and the status of free man among us. Let him establish a house of healing where both our traditional remedies and his foreign knowledge can be preserved and taught." The Jarl's eyebrows rose. You ask much for a Christian, daughter. I ask what his deeds have earned, she replied steadily. Egil turned back to Brayden. And you, Christian? What say you to this proposal? Would you live among heathens, far from your monasteries and churches? Brayden's gaze shifted briefly to Odelle before returning to the Jarl. I have found purpose here that I never found within cloistered walls. If your people will accept my presence, I would stay and continue the work we've begun. The Jarl stroked his beard thoughtfully. Finally, he nodded. So be it. Brayden Fitzroy, I grant you the land beyond the northern stream. You may establish your house of healing there. You will be under my protection as a free man of Ravhome, so long as you continue to use your skills for our benefit and make no attempts to convert our people. And what of his soul? Jarl Egil, called a voice from the crowd. It was Gunhild, the village Volva or Cirrus. A man cannot live between worlds forever. Either he accepts our gods or remains an outsider. Egil frowned. Would you have me drive away the man who saved your Jarl's life, Gunhild? The old woman approached, her staff tapping on the packed earth floor. I would have clarity. Our ways and the White Christs cannot exist together in one village without discord. Perhaps they can, Odelle interjected, stepping forward. My mother was Christian-born before she was taken in raid. She found ways to honor our gods while respecting the teachings she was raised with. Gunhild's eyes narrowed. Your mother was a wise woman who knew to keep such thoughts private. This man is a monk, sworn to his one god. I was a monk, Brayden corrected. I have left that life behind. While I will not abandon my faith in Christ, I have learned much from your people. Your healing arts, your respect for nature's wisdom, these do not contradict my beliefs. The Volva studied him intently, then turned to Odelle. And you, daughter of Ravhome? Where does your heart lie in matters of faith, and in matters of this man? A hush fell over the hall. The question had exposed what many had begun to suspect, that Odelle's interest in the Christian healer went beyond his medicinal knowledge. Odelle felt heat rise to her face but met Gunhild's gaze steadily. My heart lies with the welfare of our people. But I will not deny that I have come to respect and value Brayden Fitzroy for more than his healing skills. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Egil's expression darkened. You would take a Christian to your bed, daughter? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Brayden stepped forward before Odelle could answer. Jarl Egil, I have made no such presumptions nor advances toward your daughter. Our work together has been that of fellow healers, nothing more. Yet you do not deny you would welcome such advances, Egil observed shrewdly. Brayden hesitated, then straightened his shoulders. I cannot deny that I have grown to admire Odelle deeply. Her courage, her wisdom, her dedication to her people, these qualities would make any man proud to stand at her side. But I recognize the gulf between us. I would never dishonor her or you by presuming my feelings could override the customs of your people. The Jarl leaned back in his seat, studying them both. Finally, he sighed heavily. The plague has taken many from us. Perhaps the old ways must bend if we are to survive what new challenges the gods, or God, may send. He looked to Gunhild. What say you, Volva? What do the runes tell of this unusual pairing? The old woman reached into her pouch, withdrawing her carved wooden runes. She cast them onto the floor before the high seat, studying their pattern with intense concentration. After a long moment, she looked up. The runes speak of transformation. Of old giving way to new, but not being lost. They speak of strength in the blending of unlike things. She fixed Brayden with a penetrating stare. They say you have magic in you, Christian, though you call it by another name. She turned to Odelle. And they say your path lies with his, though it will not be an easy road. Odelle Crowley drummed his fingers on the arm of his chair. The hall remained silent, awaiting his verdict. Brayden Fitzroy, he said finally, you came to us as a stranger and proved yourself a healer of great skill. Now it seems you wish to be more than that to my daughter and our people. I wish to be what you and your people will allow me to be, Brayden replied carefully. My feelings for Odelle are real, but I understand they may be impossible. The Jarl looked to his daughter. And you, Odelle? Would you bind yourself to this man, knowing the difficulties it would bring? The whispers, the doubt from our people and his alike. Odelle met her father's gaze. I would. His heart is true, his hands heal rather than harm, and his wisdom complements my own. Is that not more important than where or how he prays? Egil was silent for a long moment. Then he stood, addressing the hall. My daughter saved our village by daring to seek help from those we have long considered enemies. Perhaps there is wisdom in building bridges rather than burning them. He turned to Brayden. If you would have my daughter's hand, Christian, you must prove yourself to our people not just as a healer but as a man worthy of a Jarl's daughter. How would you have me prove myself? Brayden asked. Not with sword or axe, Egil said, but with loyalty and wisdom. For 1 year, you will establish your healing house and teach our people what you know. You will learn our ways more deeply, our language, our customs, our beliefs. At the end of that year, if you still wish to claim Odelle as wife and she still wishes to accept you, I will not stand in your way. Relief and joy washed over Odelle's face. It was more than she had dared hope for. And what of his faith, Jarl Egil? Gunhild pressed. Will you allow the White Christ's teachings in Ravholm? His healing house may contain his prayers and symbols, Egil decided, but he will make no attempts to turn our people from our gods. And any children born of their union will learn the ways of both their parents, free to choose their path when of age. He looked to Brayden. Can you abide by these terms, Christian? Brayden nodded solemnly. I can, Jarl Egil. And I thank you for your wisdom and fairness. Do not thank me yet, Egil warned. The year ahead will test you both. Many in our village, and in the Christian lands, will oppose this union. You must prove its worth through deeds, not words. As the council dispersed, Odelle and Brayden found a moment alone in the shadows outside the great hall. Did you know? Brayden asked quietly. When you asked me to come to Ravholm, did you know it would lead to this? Odelle shook her head. I knew only that I needed your knowledge to save my people. What has grown between us? She placed her hand over his heart. That was not planned, but neither do I regret it. Nor do I, he said, covering her hand with his own. Though your father is right, the path ahead will not be easy. Easy paths rarely lead to worthy destinations, Odelle replied with a smile. We have a year to build your healing house and show our people that different beliefs can exist side by side, strengthening rather than weakening each other. As we did with the plague, Brayden noted. Your traditional remedies combined with my forbidden knowledge created something stronger than either alone. Perhaps that is what the gods, or your god, intended all along, Odelle suggested. Perhaps the plague came not to destroy us but to bring us together. Brayden smiled. A harsh method, but I cannot argue with the result. In the year that followed, Brayden built his healing house on the land granted by the Jarl. It became a place of learning where traditional Norse healing arts blended with knowledge from Christian and Eastern texts. The forbidden techniques that had saved the Jarl's life were taught carefully to selected apprentices, always with respect for both the Christian faith and the Norse gods. Brayden learned the Norse language fluently and participated in village life, though he maintained his personal Christian devotions in private. When Vikings returned wounded from raids, he treated them without judgment. When Christian missionaries visited, he served as mediator, encouraging respectful exchange rather than confrontation. Odelle worked alongside him, their combined knowledge creating new healing techniques unique to Ravholm. Their success drew the sick and wounded from neighboring settlements, bringing new trade and prosperity to the village. Not all were pleased. Some Christians passing through condemned Brayden as an apostate. Some Vikings muttered that Odelle had been bewitched by Christian magic. But as the seasons turned and the evidence of their good work mounted, these voices grew fewer. When the year ended, Odelle Crowley honored his promise. On Midsummer's Day, when the sun barely set in northern skies, Odelle and Brayden were wed in a ceremony that honored both their traditions. They spoke vows before the village and before the Christian god, exchanged rings in the Norse manner, and jumped together over the midsummer fire for fertility and luck. As they stood hand in hand before the celebration feast, Odelle Crowley raised his drinking horn to the newlyweds. Today we celebrate not just the union of two people, but the proof that enemies can become allies, that different paths can lead to common ground. Brayden Fitzroy came to us as a Christian healer, now he stands as a man of Ravholme, husband to my daughter, and keeper of knowledge that saved our people. He turned to address them directly. The plague that nearly destroyed us instead revealed a greater strength, the wisdom to recognize value in different ways. May your union continue to teach us this lesson. Odelle squeezed Brayden's hand as they raised their horns in response. To new beginnings, she said. And to forbidden knowledge, Brayden added with a smile, that became a bridge between worlds. The celebration lasted 3 days, as was the Viking custom. When it ended, Odelle and Brayden returned to their healing house on the northern stream, where the first flowers of summer bloomed around the doorway, some native to Norse lands, others carefully transported from the monastery garden across the sea. Like those transplanted flowers, Brayden had put down roots in foreign soil. Like the healing practices they had developed together, their love had become something new, neither fully Viking nor fully Christian, but strong, resilient, and life-giving in a world that too often celebrated death. And when the plague returned to the shores of northern lands years later, it found in Ravholme not vulnerable victims but a community armed with knowledge that transcended cultural boundaries, a living testament to the power of forbidden magic and the healing that comes when ancient enemies discover common ground.